Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the 10 Stone Seasonal Godfest that is coming to North America on Monday. So basically, starting on Monday, there's going to be this special week-long Godfest that is going to be split up into two separate parts. Now, during this Godfest, every roll will cost you 10 magic stones, as well as the fact that it will come out as 7 stars. So, as 7 stars, they will either be evolved or awoken if applicable. They'll be plus 297, max level, and max awoken. So this is very similar to the previous 10 Stone Voice Godfest we had maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. And during that event, there was approximately 33% chance of rolling any Godfest exclusive or seasonal card. And that event was quite exciting. Now, with this seasonal Godfest here, it's no guarantee as to what the rolling rates are. Gung Ho North America has only just teased a partial lineup. They did not release the rolling rates, so we will only be able to find out on Monday itself by checking in-game the rolling rates as well as the full roster lineup. But my guess is that based on the teased partial lineup, it'll probably be just a bunch of Pantheon fillers in between, and maybe like part 1, part 2 of some overlap with highlights, so on and so forth. So this event looks reasonable overall, but of course, unless we know the rolling rates, we don't know how beneficial it actually can be. There is Beach Barbara and Julie featured during part 1, but unfortunately part 1 is quite lackluster compared to part 2, and I'll explain more of that as I go further through the article and video. So at this point in time, we have received another 100 magic stones. We also have the chance to clear the anniversary quest dungeons for another 52 stones, 50 for clearing each floor, 2 for clearing part 1 and part 2 respectively. So we are kind of saturated with magic stones, and we do kind of feel like we want to actually spend them, but of course we want to spend them in the most efficient manner possible. So in terms of like high value events on the near horizon, we have the seasonal Godfest, which may or may not be a hit, as well as the Player's Choice Godfest, which should come soon, most likely before the end of the year, as well as the Player's Choice Godfest possibly releasing the new 7-star Godfest exclusives that provide you with the orb skins, so like the Athena, Zeus, and Valkyrie. So those are pretty exciting as well, and I honestly feel like they will come with the Player's Choice Godfest. But historically speaking, the Player's Choice Godfests have been quite underwhelming just because they've had abysmal rolling rates, because 6-star Godfest exclusives were only voted in and they basically had no chance of being rolled. So things might have definitely changed, because with the disclosed rolling rates and how Gung Ho is kind of revamping everything overall, there's a strong possibility that the Player's Choice Godfest will actually be a nice event, alongside the fact that hopefully some of the better Pantheon cards like Izanagi and Reincarnated I were actually voted in. Because during the Japanese Player's Choice Godfest, it was quite an exciting time. So there's a strong likelihood we'll have something of equal measure to Japan, so that could be the next kind of big event, as well as this possible seasonal Godfest. So taking all that into consideration, it's hard to give advice as what you should be rolling, just because we don't know what the disclosed rolling rates are, as well as what we can expect. Because for the most part, Puzzle & Dragons has kind of evolved into a game where you roll in high-value Godfest to acquire the Godfest exclusives, and after acquiring the Godfest exclusives, you utilize them through the monster exchange system to acquire a rare, valuable seasonal or collab card of your choice. So at the same time, on Monday, as well as the seasonal Godfest, there will be the Fullmetal Alchemist collab. And the Fullmetal Alchemist collab has Edward, and Edward has been recently buffed to the point where he's one of the strongest leaders in the game, an incredibly powerful card to own. So if you are lacking an endgame leader, Edward or trading for Edward is going to be a highly desirable method. And in all honesty, unless the seasonal Godfest has terrible rolling rates, rolling in it would probably be the most stone-efficient way to acquire Edward, because you roll it, acquire the 6-star Godfest exclusive, trade for Edward, instead of gambling at a 2.5% chance of actually getting Edward. So that's kind of where Pat is taking us at this point in time. Rolling high-value Godfest, trading collabs. So again, the decision of whether or not to roll will definitely rest upon your own individual monster box needs and goals and aspirations. And another thing to keep in mind is that there is no super high value event on the near horizon. Generally speaking, we get content 2 to 3 months after Japan, so nothing that we can expect to come to North America is on the way that is going to be particularly exciting. So it's probably just Player's Choice Godfest, and then we'll have maybe a gap in terms of what might be exciting. But again, Gung Ho North America has been quite generous lately. Maybe we'll get something afterwards. So I clearly didn't hit the continue reading button. Good job, me. So, the featured cards. So, based on the official post that you can read there, it states that there is only a partial lineup revealed, no disclosed rolling rates. There is going to be obviously more cards, but I'm going to just assume it's going to be filler Pantheon cards that no one really wants for the most part. And the voice Godfest we had before had 33% chance of any Godfest exclusive or heroine card. And even when you factor in the 10 stone cost, it was much better value than a regular Godfest. So if the seasonal Godfest follows that same pattern, it's going to be a strong Godfest to actually roll in. Because remember, we want to get the Godfest exclusives to trade in for the rare collab cards that we actually want to have. So this is only a partial list. Again, if it's following the pattern of the Voice Godfest, we'll have these as highlights for part 1, with these cards kind of being also featured in part 1 but at a lower rate, and then the reverse will be true for part 2. Again, this is speculation, nothing is confirmed of course, but in terms of like the general trend, there is the 7-star Godfest exclusives featured through both parts, so that's just going to be happening anyway, so I kind of ignore that fact when I'm comparing the two parts. And when it comes to the actual differences in the lineups, day 1 has Beach, Barbara, and Julie, which is kind of the big high point, and then has a sprinkling of Ryune, Amino, Yogg to kind of zest and spice it up a bit. But unfortunately, it kind of just ends there. There's not too much other amazing value to be had, in my opinion, relatively speaking. Mostly because Cottons are better than Nays, which is a big deal, and then, well, A10, Fenrir Viz, like, they're alright, Cammy, like, they're reasonable as well, but Dark Kelly's not in a good place at this point in time. But on the flip side, for part 2, we have Wedding Roshana, we have Beach Yogg, which are great seasonal cards to have. Even the Orochi is not a bad inherit, in all honesty. But we also have the Cottons, which are, again, better than Nays. We have Dark Metatron, which we know is one of the most powerful cards in the game. We also have the new Mega Awoken Sharius Roots and Balden. And that is actually a big deal because Sharius Roots is a hugely powerful leader that can build a team of massive amounts of health and great amount of damage output. There's also Fujin. So there are better things, in my opinion, on part 2, but that's just kind of assuming you have absolutely no cards whatsoever, just looking at it in that kind of vacuum perspective. Of course, your own monster box will have you hopefully having some cards from beforehand, so it will shift and vary the actual value for each part accordingly, just because everyone's monster box is different, as well as maybe some people really want to get Wedding Sheet because they think it's pretty, that sort of idea. So to roll or not to roll. So this video is being released on Sunday, the day before the Godfest goes live, to give everyone at least a heads up as to what you can expect. So we don't know the official rolling rates. Check in-game to make sure it's actually reasonable. Just add up all the total percentiles for the seasonals and Godfest exclusive to give you an idea of how beneficial this event is. But with that in mind, I'm hoping that Player's Choice Godfest, like, the voting was done well in the sense that we voted in valuable Pantheon cards such as Izanagi and Reincarnated I, because as 5-star Pantheon cards go, as well as Anubis, they're some of the best ones at this point in time, because Izanagi is great for Dark Metatron, I is amazing for Beach, Barbara, and Julie, and even Dark Metatron at the same time. I is just incredible. Ryune, just great. So with that being said, if you are planning to try and acquire Edward, rolling in the Seasonal Godfest will most likely be your best chance to do so, because you roll in Seasonal Godfest and get the Godfest exclusive trade in for Edward, probably saving yourself magic zones as well as picking up other collateral benefits along the way. Of course, if you're feeling lucky or you just love the Fullmetal Alchemist franchise, feel free to roll in it. There's 10% chance of a 6-star, with all the 6-stars having good and strong value. So it's not a terrible event, but I generally prefer high-value Godfest. But that's just kind of my own personal opinion. So one thing to keep in mind is that rolling in the Rare Machine, no matter what the event, no matter what the odds, is always going to be a gamble. The last Voice Godfest, I rolled 15 or 14 times on my Mantastic account. I got 0 Godfest exclusives, 0 heroine cards. So I'm obviously on the very wrong end of the bell curve, even though there's a 1 in 3 chance of it happening. But on the flip side, there are people who rolled like 60+% Godfest exclusives. So it is going to be a gamble, and it is frustrating because there is no way you can improve your odds without purchasing magic stones. Like, you have to get lucky. This is not a skill-based component to this game, and it can be quite frustrating. But the thing is, you have to pull in the Rare Machine to advance. You need to pull to get the new cards to be able to counter the various mechanics that you encounter as you play harder and harder dungeons. So what I like to do is try and find the best way to catch up on power creep. And the best way, in my opinion, to catch up on power creep is to hoard your magic stones. In this case here, we've been given so many for free, and then roll heavily in a high value event in hopes of acquiring as many kind of top tier or meta cards as possible. And then you kind of ride that wave until the next big thing is released, because that's, in my opinion, the best way to catch up, because you kind of hit the limit of what is the best things to have in Puzzle and Dragons, and then you wait for several months. Your cards kind of diminish over time because new things get released, and then you hoard up a big pool again, roll lots, and you're back up to the top. So that's how I like to try and spend my magic tones, just wait for the best value event for my individual monster box to kind of catch up accordingly. Of course, this is my personal opinion. You should be doing what you feel is best for yourself. So, in conclusion, the 10-stone seasonal Godfest does have the potential to be quite strong, assuming the rolling rates are going to be somewhat similar to the voice Godfest we had a month or a month and a half ago. Now, generally speaking, I feel that part 2 is stronger overall, because I'm going to assume that these are going to be the highlighted cards. So it does feature more value for the Godfest exclusives and seasonals cards at the same time. Of course, if you own most of the cards here, it's going to have less value for yourself compared to part 1. So again, use your own judgment, check the official lineup, and disclose rolling rates on Monday. Let me know what you think about this event in the comments below. Hopefully you all have a Mantastic day. I wish you all the best of luck in your own pet adventures, and happy puzzling.